So just before I begin, can I get like a quick show of hands of who of you got a travel sim or eSIM when coming here? Okay, so like a third maybe, or maybe less. So I want to describe to you a little bit why that could be a bad idea, how that could be unsafe. And I also want to introduce to you this tool that we've created called SIMurai. It's a research platform that we made from scratch. We have some promising results as a result. It contains, for example, a SIM card emulator, so and also some vulnerabilities that we found. So SIMurai consists of 3 main contributions. The first one being a SIM card emulator. So think of this as a software-defined SIM. You can essentially alter this behavior of the SIM card in any way that you like. It runs on a computer, and I further will show how this can be attached to real phones. The second thing is a collection of demonstration experiments that show how rogue network operators and also short physical access can can weaponize the SIM card and essentially allow it to perform malicious purposes. And the third thing is, so we have some case studies as well, where, for example, we implement a spyware, we re-implement some spyware from a previous work to show how the SIM card can, for example, extract location information from one device and send it over the network to another. And we, also using this SIMurai tool that we've created, we're able to discover 2 high-severity vulnerabilities using SIMurai-aided fuzzing. We're able to do some fuzzing against emulated basebands and discover vulnerabilities in those. So let's take a step back and let's look at what a SIM card is. So it turns out it's a little computer with a CPU, some memory, some flash, and it runs a card operating system. And sometimes it even has a virtual machine, a Java virtual machine, which would allow the operator to essentially run arbitrary code on there. So we can start to see why attaching this to your device could be potentially an issue, how that could be unsafe. And let's also take a look at the same thing from the phone's perspective. So this is a logic board from an iPhone 5S. In the center there's a card reader. That's where your card SIM tray will slot into. On the right is a baseband. That's what handles the radio communication and also communicates the SIM card directly. And on the left, you got the application processor that handles your iOS, Android, etc. So these are connected roughly this way. And what we are really interested in is that bottom arrow, that direct connection between that card reader and that baseband. And we show how that how to essentially exploit the lack of defenses on that interface using the SIM card. Because it is currently really under-researched, and there essentially are no defenses on this interface. And because the SIM card is a little computer, that is potentially an unsafe interface. So in terms of attack vectors that are currently considered, we have, of course, the hardware, which can have hardware vulnerabilities. You have the operating systems. So in previous work, there have been some attacks against even SIM cards and exploits against the SIM card operating system and the software on the SIM. But what we want to kind of extend this with are a couple of things. First of all, if we assume that the SIM card can be attacker controlled, because it can be, and it can be controlled by the operator, which can be malicious. And that is a realistic situation, given that there have been some instances where employees of some operators would sell access to the neural network, essentially allowing that attacker who bought that access to install anything on that SIM card over the air. We also, because this interface between the SIM and the baseband is not encrypted in any way or protected, you can also have like thin physical cards or implants that you put between the card and the phone that would allow you to have the same kind of control as the rogue operator. So we are really focusing on how can a rogue SIM card, what can a rogue SIM card do in this situation? Like if the SIM card is attacker controlled, what can it do from there? So the current state of the art, if you want to do research on this card reader to baseband interface or SIM to baseband interface, you essentially need to get a research SIM card. This card you can reprogram, and it has some limitations. I mean, you can alter the identifiers in this card. You can install also applets. So this Java virtual machine you can install. It has a virtual machine, Java virtual machine. You can install these cardlets, they're called, on this card. And this is something that you really want to do, because a regular card will not use the entire set of features that a SIM card will support. So to really be able to look into all those different features that are not generally used, you really want to be able to install your own software on this card and be able to find out, like, is it safe? Are these features potentially, are the parsers at the baseband side, are those safe? Because from our research, we've also seen that they are not quite safe. So some limits of if you have a physical card like this, because it is a secure element, it has certain limitations. So it's very, very difficult to debug, very difficult to extract any kind of information. So if you're flashing your software on it and figuring out what it's doing, what is happening, it's very difficult to extract that information. And the SDK that comes with this card is not very helpful either. You really have to implement all these parsers and deparsers by yourself. And of course, also because it is has a little bit of EEPROM in there, that EEPROM has limited number of write cycles. So you cannot just infinitely write your software on it. It will eventually break. And it might break in unpredictable ways. So what we propose is SIMurai as an alternative to that, as an improvement to that. Because with SIMurai, we have an emulator for the SIM card. And that emulator will run on your computer. You can alter its behavior in any way that you would like. It has some helpful libraries and also a framework to build other types of cards. If you're interested in cards that are not SIM cards, you can also build those. But primarily, the biggest kind of part of this is the emulator. And that SIM emulator and all those things combined, they're around maybe 4,000 lines of C. And they're really designed for research. They were not designed for commercial use. So they are designed to break things. Like you can use these tools to really explore that interface between the SIM and the baseband. And I will also show a bit later how we can attach this emulator that runs on some computer to real phones. And we've tested plenty of them, and it works with many different devices. So this is an example of a common setup you might see. It contains two phones. One of them, in this case, would have a research card, and the other one, we attach to it a SIMurai. And I want to show you how that connection between the software running on a computer and actually communicating with the phone, how that looks like. So there's this device called SIMtrace2, which essentially forwards the messages back and forth from the phone to the PC via USB. And you have SIMurai running on the PC side, communicating with that phone using that bridge in the middle, that SIMtrace device that forwards the messages. So now I want to get into some of the examples that we've implemented, some case studies and demonstrations. One of them is a spyware. So in around 90 lines of C using SIMurai, we were able to re-implement a spyware using just software running on a SIM. And this spyware essentially does two things. It steals location information from one phone and sends this location with an SMS over the network to another phone. And this is done completely covertly. The target will never know, actually, will not be notified or requested permission to perform any of these actions. So some other things that we've done fuzzing. So using firmware and its ability to emulate basebands, which essentially takes just a raw binary that would normally be flashed onto that baseband processor. We're able to emulate that, and with SIMurai, we're able to actually attach this emulated card into that emulated baseband, and this way allowed us to fuzz the baseband with some help from SIMurai. We also have a demonstration of this interposer thing. interposer card, it's a thin implant that goes between the SIM and the phone. And we show that with very short physical access, you can slide this into a phone between the SIM and the phone. And that would allow you to have the same kind of control as an operator would have. And we also integrated SIMurai into various different setups. For example, we integrated into physical SRS run with USRP. We also integrated into a emulated SRS run setup with SRS UE. And we also tested it with Open5GS, again with USRP. Sorry. So, in conclusion, our results, we tested with many different devices. These are only some of the devices that we tested with. It's fairly easy to use. It's essentially plug and play as long as you have that SIM trace device that is able to forward messages back and forth, and that's easily obtainable. We've shown with some case studies that it is quite easy to try things with SIMurai. So we've tried that spyware. We also tried other things. We also discovered high severity vulnerabilities in recent phones using that SIMurai aided fuzzing. And in summary, all in all, SIMurai is a research platform with an emulator, a SIM emulator. We've done some case studies, in particular the spyware, and we did the fuzzing, and also others. To learn more, you can read the paper. We also integrated into various different common research setups, testbeds that we use and potentially others might use as well. And we also proposed that the extension of the attacker mode to also include these SIM-centric attacks, because really the capabilities of the SIM are quite vast and they're underexplored. So we urge you to also explore these and perhaps find some more vulnerabilities. And with this work, we were able to find 2 high severity vulnerabilities in some very recent phones. Yeah, so thanks.